Danny Segura here for MMAJunkie.com. We're here in our New York City studios. Today, we'll be chatting with a former champion of The Ultimate Fighter, a man who somewhat recently switched weight classes and has been killing it since his switch of divisions. He also has a pretty big fight coming up, and I also heard he's the biggest Pearl Jam fan in the world. Of course, we are talking about Michael Chiesa, who joins us via Skype. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing really good, man. Just out in Spokane right now, enjoying this windy weather.
So Matt Erickson from our site told me that you're the biggest Pearl Jam fan in the world. Is that correct?
Dude, 100%. Yeah, diehard Pearl Jam fan. It's like one of my first CDs I ever got growing up. And you couple that with the fact that Sam Sicilian, my teammates, he's what inspired me to become such a big Pearl Jam fan. So you put the two of us together, yeah, we are diehards. Long live Eddie, dude. He's the last front man alive from the grunge era. So you gotta love the guy. You gotta love the band.
What's your go-to song? If we were in the car right now and I'd be like, pop a Pearl Jam song, what's your choosing?
That depends on what we're about to do. You know what I mean? If I've had a couple cold ones and I feel like, drunk dialing Sam, I'm gonna listen to Yellow Ledbetter because that's his favorite song. He actually danced to his wife at his wedding to it. If I'm getting ready to go train or go snowboard or something, I'll listen to Y or Once. I listen to a lot of their live stuff too. So, I like all their stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your fighting career. It's getting pretty interesting. You got a big fight coming up. You'll be fighting former UFC champion Rafael dos Anjos at welterweight on January 25th, part of the UFC Raleigh card in North Carolina. First of all, how did this bout come together? Because this is a pretty big bout in that division.
Yeah. Well, it got offered to me a lot earlier this year, and just at that point in time, I was going through some family stuff and just needed to kind of handle that before I could jump into a fight. And so I've kind of known it was on the radar for a while, but I kind of thought that it would fall off the table. Just because matchups can change, and I know that's the direction they wanted to go, and the matchup stuck. So to my understanding, I think that he asked for the fight, and I'm super stoked on it. It's these waters at welterweight are pretty murky right now. There's a lot of good talent outside of the top 15. It's pretty deep, and so it's like when you got a guy like Rafael dos Anjos, asking to fight you jump all over it. You know what I mean? And I like the way I match up with the guy. And it's a good gauge to see where I'm at. This guy everybody wants to knack the guy for, losing what he's like one in his last four, but it's like, look who he's lost to. He's lost to the best. You know what I mean? And it's not like he got his shit kicked in. He was in competitive fights with the best guys in the division. So, I'm not in this sport to be anything less than the best. So this is the right fight for me right now. And I'm excited for January 25th.
I know a while ago you said that you wanted to renegotiate your contract, and part of that negotiation was getting a ranked opponent. Is this sort of the perfect case scenario for you? Was this guy at the top of your list, or were there other names that you were interested in?
I kind of got over the part of having a name. You know what I mean? Like I kind of lobbied for the Neil Magny fight. And I didn't I kind of fell into that rut of like all these guys call out Neil Magny. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be one of those guys because that's not why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? But I just decided to disregard names and just say, going into this new deal, I want to fight a ranked guy. And I think the UFC, I think they wanted to put me there. I mean, when I left the rankings at lightweight, I was ranked number 9. So it's like, it only makes sense to put me in there against these ranked guys. And, I got all that and then some, you know what I mean? To get a chance to fight a guy, not only is he in the top 15, this guy's, number 5 or number 6 in the world right now. I'm like, fuck, I'm pumped. This is what I want. I feel the least amount of pressure when I'm fighting the better guy.
So has the UFC told you what your placement is going to be on this card? Because as you said, it's pretty stacked, but this is a very important fight.
I know it's going to be the main card. I mean, I'm assuming it is. We'll see. They haven't said anything to me about that. But we'll find out. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. It can be the first fight of the card. It can be the last fight on the card. I get a chance to fight Rafael dos Anjos, guy I got a lot of respect for. So card placement doesn't matter to me. I'm just excited for the opportunity to compete against him for sure.
And you said there you negotiated a new contract. You're happy with what you got? And how many fights did you get?
Very happy with the deal. Pretty sure it's a 5-fight deal. I can't really say too much about the language of it, but there's some things in there that I really like that I hadn't had in my contracts before. the things that kind of match up to my ultimate goal. You know what I mean? So that's about all I can say about it, but I'm very pleased with where I'm at. Shout out to Daniel Rubenstein for getting the job done. You crazy guy.
You've been now fighting at welterweight for 2 fights. How do you feel like? Do you feel like a welterweight now? And I guess how has your experience been in this new weight class? So far,
Dude,
you're doing pretty good.
it's been unreal. And I think it's funny that a lot of these guys, I saw Randy Brown's call out, which I thought was funny, and I saw in one of his interviews. I pay close attention to these things, whether you call me out or not. If there's a welterweight fighting on a UFC card, I watch your fight, I watch your interviews. I'm very attentive of everything that goes on in my weight class. And when he tried to say he's not even a real welterweight, he hasn't even fought real welterweights. I'm like, dude, if you saw how big I am in real life, you would shit your pants. Like, I am not a fucking 55 pounder anymore. I'm 6'2". I'm 200 pounds in shape. Like, I'm not a lightweight anymore. It's just these guys. If anybody goes into a fight thinking I'm really not a welterweight, then they're making a really big mistake. You know what I mean? But this has just been awesome. When I was fighting at 55, I just started to kind of get burned out on the sport. You know what I mean? And that's like, it wasn't making sense to me. I'm like, I'm not even 30. These guys have these long careers. Why is this so hard for me? And it wasn't like I'm a mentally tough guy. I love my job, but I couldn't really put my finger on it until it kind of dawned on me when I had to kind of, after the Pettis fight, I need to look at the big picture. And it's like, you need to go up a weight class. And ever since I've done that, I feel like I just started my career over again. I'm training all the time. I never want to break. When I fought at 55, I get done with the fight and it's like, I don't even want to touch the gym for a month. I'm burned out. You know what I mean? The camps at welterweight are tougher, but my body can handle it because I can eat and I can nurture myself. A camp for 155 is like all my training, but you have to finish the night with, a 5-mile run every night, and it's just like, that's not the way a camp should be. A camp should be, you should be run down and tired from just training for your fight, not training for the scale.
I guess how would you look back at your career at 155? And do you wish you would have maybe done the switch sooner?
No, I mean, as crazy as that sounds, there's no way I could have, you know what I mean? Things really got hard for me once I got ranked. So it's like, like I said earlier, like I expect to be nothing less than a world champion by the time I hang up my gloves. You know what I mean? I will win a world title one day. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. And so when that's the ultimate goal, and I'm finally getting myself in a real position to where I can make that happen, I can't just pull back and say, okay, I need to change something now. It's like, you just have to deal with it, and fighting's such a learning experience throughout your whole career. Like you don't figure things out until you come up short somewhere. You know what I mean? And it took a few hiccups in my fights with Kevin and Pettis and a botched weight cut for me to kind of learn, like, hey, you got to look back. You got to fix things. You don't fix things when you win. You fix things when you lose. You fix things when you fuck up. So it's like, when you mess up. So it's like, that's kind of part of this whole martial arts experience, is you just got to fix things at the proper time. And I would never look back on my career at 55 and think it was a bust. You know what I mean? I won the show back when I was still a lightweight. I won one of the toughest seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, if not the toughest. I got to lock horns with some really tough fighters. I had some fun fights. I won some bonuses. I got some fight of the nights. Like, it was a good run. But now I feel like I can put on even better performances than I did before. And that's given me a lot of hope that I can really make this. Like, I'm really starting to really, truly, genuinely believe that the vision is real. I'm going to be a world champion someday. You know what I mean? It's not just a hope anymore. It's a true belief, so it's an exciting time right now.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think weight cutting at some point is going to become obsolete? Because it seems that's the way it's going, at least weight cutting as we know it. I'm sure, obviously, there'll be some sort of cut to make the weight class. But as far as like really draining yourself, it seems that's starting to go away.
Yeah, and it's not the UFC enforcing anything. I don't think it's the state athletic commissions and them changing their rules and regulations. I don't think that's what's making this trend kind of sway away from extreme weight cutting. I think it's guys that get on the front, get out as front runners, like Dustin Poirier, Daniel Cormier. These guys that are amazing fighters. You see the success they have going up in weight. That it's like, well, it's not like you look at it like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, it's not like you're looking at it like downplaying what they're doing, but it's like, wow, look at the success that they're having by eliminating this. For me, the biggest one for me was Dustin Poirier. You know what I mean? Because when he was at 45, I remember seeing him at the airport one time and was like, dude, this guy is like wide. He is barrel chested. That's a big 55 pounder, and he's cutting to 45, So I would see him and be like, well, I'm not alone. At least I'm not the only guy that's cutting a ton of weight. And I saw him go up in weight class and saw the success he was having. I mean, look at his win streak he had going into that Khabib fight. I was like, you know what? Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to make a change in my weight class. Like, look at the success Dustin Poirier is having. Now, look at what he's doing. There's no reason why I shouldn't give myself the opportunity to do the same thing. You know what I mean? And I just think that with my style of fighting, I just don't think weight cutting really makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people will say, well, you're a grappler and cutting the most amount of weight makes the most sense so you can be the biggest guy. And it's like, no, I really disagree with that. I think that if you're going to be a grappler, you need to lift a lot of weights. You need to get really physically strong and fast, and you need to work on your strength conditioning as a whole. And you can't do that if you're going to cut a bunch of weight. You have to put the weights down, and you have to run a lot, and you got to get thinner. You got to lean out in a crazy amount of ways. And it's like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. For my style, I need to not cut a ton of weight. I need to hit the weights more. It's like the polar opposite. So seeing Dustin Poirier's success was really what kind of like influenced me to make that jump.
Yeah, and it almost felt
thank you, Dustin Poirier. I really appreciate it.
Have you told him that?
No, but I seriously would if I ever saw him. You know what I mean? I would say that, and maybe some other guys have said that too. But that would be a guy like if I saw Dustin, I would definitely be like, hey, by the way, thanks. You know what I mean? You're kind of leading the charge, and you are right. Like the trend is slowly starting to die down a little bit, and it's a good thing, man.
A couple of things on your opponent, RDA. As you said, he's had some losses as of late, but those losses have come to Leon Edwards, and then the two guys that are fighting for the title at 245, right? Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. In your mind, sure, he's not a champion anymore, but he's still a top 5 fighter, right? Is this the most dangerous fight you've ever taken?
Yeah, for sure, hands down. The most dangerous guy, yes, but I don't really look at it as like a dangerous fight. Like a dangerous fight is like, you've lost your last 2 fights and you're fighting Carlos Condit. That to me is a dangerous fight because it's like the do or die, the pressure of like winning and keeping your job or losing and getting cut. That's a dangerous fight. You know what I mean? Is this one of the most dangerous guys? Yeah, 100%. But like I said, the pressure is off. And when the pressure is off and I can have fun, that's when I fight my complete best. You know what I mean? Like 2 wins in a row, fighting a top-ranked guy. Not a lot of people are probably counting me to win this fight. Like, dude, let's just go out and have fun. Let's just train as hard as you possibly can. Implement your game plan. Go out and fight this guy bell to bell. And I believe I'm going to beat him. You know what I mean? And even though I have respect for the guy, we all need to say that we believe we can beat our opponents when we are signed to fight them. Like he should say the same thing about me, and I'm sure he is. He's probably saying he's going to take my head off, and that's great. But in terms of this being a dangerous fight, I don't think this is a dangerous fight. Do I think this is a dangerous opponent? Absolutely. This guy is tough as shit. So yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
And I want to talk about your division. Obviously, you said that you pay close attention to it, and you've always have. Every time I've talked to you, you've always paid close attention to what's going on around the game. Big fight coming up at UFC 245, Covington versus Usman, or I should say Usman versus Covington. How do you see that one going? Because that's a tricky one, right?
Dude, it's really tricky. I was very sold on Kamaru. Just, the way he beat Woodley. And, I'm thinking like, this is going to be the guy, for a while, he's going to run it for a while. And then I saw the way Covington fought Lawler, and to throw over 500 strikes in a fight and you're a wrestler. It's like, all right, now this kind of changes the whole dynamic of the way I look at this matchup. I don't think Usman really gets tired in his fights, but he's just, he relies on the grinding a lot more, where Covington showed that he can rely on volume striking and mixing that in with his wrestling. That could be frustrating for a guy like Kamaru. It's just it's a really tough matchup. I mean, this is either going to be one of those fights where the wrestling credentials are going to negate each other, and this could be a crazy stand-up fight, or it's going to be one guy just totally superiorly wrestling the other. I don't think that it's either going to be a stand-up fight, or I think one guy's wrestling is going to be better than the others, and they're going to be able to floor him. You know what I mean? I don't see there being a ton of wrestling exchanges. I think it's going to be an instance where whoever it is, I mean, if you look on paper, you're going to say Covington's the better wrestler because he wrestled Division One. He wrestled at Oregon State. Pretty sure he's an All-American. Yeah, on paper you would say probably him, but dude, you never know. So it's either going to be a striking battle, or just one guy's going to surprise the other with the wrestling and be able to keep them on the ground, keep them in their wheelhouse. I'll be there to see it. So, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to watch the fight for sure.
Yeah. And it seems also like if you beat RDA, he's a top 5 guy. It seems where the room to keep climbing is very small. I mean, you could be, especially if you get a convincing win, you could be a win or two away from perhaps the title shot, right?
Oh, 100%. And this is one of those things where I beat a guy like RDA. There's no backward steps from there. Like it's either going to be a guy ranked higher, and that's it. You know what I mean? So no backward steps. That's the way I look at it. Once you get in the rankings, it's like you got to just keep stepping forward until you lose to the guy ahead of you, and then you can start considering guys below you. But this is really the opportunity for me to make a big leap in my career, a big leap in my skills, and this is what it's all about for me. I can't emphasize it enough. I'm finally in this position that I've wanted to be in for so long, where I get to fight a guy like RDA. You know what I mean? Like he is truly top 5. There is these big ramifications, this situation I've always wanted to be in. You know what I mean? Where it's right on the brink of the big fight. Yeah, this is what it's all about, and it couldn't have happened to me at a better time. 31 years old, about to be 32. I'm in my prime. Everything's clicking. My camp is right. Everything's good. Like, my home life's good. My social life is great. Everything is perfect right now. So if there's no better time for a fight like this than right now.
Yeah. And it seems like, as you mentioned, like you could be right there if you get a big win. And you mentioned how the waters at welterweight are kind of murky, but looking where you came from, right, 155, it seems it's a much easier path here, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that made 155 different is the Conor McGregor factor. You had, at one point in time when I was still at lightweight, you had interim champion Tony Ferguson, undisputed champion Khabib, and then you still had Conor. This was before he lost to Khabib, where Conor was still in a position where he could just jump in whenever he wants, as he should be. People will hate that I say this, but a guy that simultaneously won 2 belts in 2 different weight classes, there is a sense of, he should be entitled to do those things at that point in time. Maybe not so much anymore after the Khabib loss and them kind of moving on with the titles. But at that time, there was basically 3 champions. There was 3 champions at lightweight, and it was too many. So, the waters are definitely a lot less murky in that aspect of welterweight. But in terms of talent, it's freaking stacked, dude. There's guys that aren't even ranked that are tough as nails. You know what I mean? And very similar to lightweight, but those are the fun divisions to be in, man. I'd rather swim with the sharks than swim with the fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you don't have 3 champions. You probably have 2, right? If you count the BMF title now.
Yeah. You know what? It's now that you bring the BMF title into it, and technically Colby's still running around with his interim championship. Yeah, it's just as fucked.
But I mean, at least those 2 are fighting, right? So you'll get some sort of resolution soon.
That takes one out. Yeah. That takes one out for sure.
Real quick, what are your thoughts on the whole BMF thing and just some sort of Masvidal's rise? Because maybe a lot of people don't know, but you fought him way back when. You guys went and had a nice little scrap.
Yeah, we got robbed of fight of the night. Yeah, he handed me my first pro loss, and I've never learned more about myself as a man and as a fighter in one event. You know what I mean? Like, that guy, he taught me a lot of things about myself. I learned. Joe Silva said this to me. His exact words were, I'm walking to the bus, and of course, walk up to Joe Silva. I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, because I kind of asked for the fight. My opponent fell out. I was supposed to fight Reza Mandati, and when he called me, this is before I let my managers handle my matchups. I did it myself. He's like, hey, your opponent fell out. Who do you want to fight? And I'm like, who's available? He named all these guys. Then he said, Jorge Masvidal. I'm like, oh, I want to fight him. He's like, whoa. Why do you want to fight him? I'm like, he's the toughest guy on the list. And he's just like, well, are you sure that's the fight you want? Because I don't think, not like he said no, but he just kind of was like, almost kind of trying to be like, well, what about these other guys? You know what I mean? And I was like, no, that's who I want. I want him. And he said, after the fight got over, I went up and apologized, and he said, hey, the lesson that you learned that night, most guys have to learn that lesson taking a total one-sided ass beating and getting totally messed up and busted up and having to go to the hospital. You learned a lot of invaluable lessons without having to take the beating that goes with it. And I was like, you are correct. That was a fight I was not ready for at that time. And since then, Jorge's an awesome guy. He's a guy that once in a while we always talk about maybe going on a skiing trip together or something. And it's Rocky and Apollo. He beat me by 1 second. Just 1 second. So it's he's a good guy. And with the BMF title, like, dude, both those guys deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to get pissed off about them creating an event around two guys and it's a title and it's not to a weight class and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? As a fighter, I'm biased. I say, who cares? Like, these guys deserve it. These guys deserve a big payday. It's a polarizing matchup, East versus West. It's everything you want as a fan and more. You know what I mean? So to make that fight, yeah, you make a freaking belt for it. Who cares? Boxing makes weight classes and shit all the time. There's 100 different million weight classes in boxing. Like, who cares if we make up a title for one of the biggest freaking events that we've had in the last 5 years? Like, those guys deserve all that and then some. And now the things you can do with Jorge Masvidal, screw it, set him up in a boxing match. You know what I mean? Like, let him do it. Jorge is in a great position that he can be whatever he wants to be. If he wants to jump into the title fight after 245, he can do that. If you really wanted to get a boxing match with Canelo Alvarez, you could probably make it happen. You know what I mean? People love these crossover fights. I don't disagree with him at all. He's in a good position, man, and Nate is as well, and both of those guys deserve it.
Yeah. It seems almost all the fighters that I talked to and I asked them about Masvidal, it seems they're all happy for him. I mean, you can make some different scenarios with other fighters where fighters, there's some hate, but with Masvidal, everyone's like, yeah, that guy deserves it, like, for the most part.
Dude, he's a living example of the American dream. You know what I mean? The way his father came into the United States, him and his path to the position that he's in now, it embodies the American dream. And he's like him and Nate, they both embody the American dream, coming from nothing and, turning their lives into something great. It's a beautiful thing for both guys. And, it's cool for me because I can say, I can look back on my career and say, I actually fought the BMF champion one time and I actually gave him a good run for his money, so it's cool to see him have his success. And same with Nate, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. How old were you when you fought him, by the way? Because that was a while back.
That was 2013. So I was 25. Yeah. Six years ago, young and dumb, dude, wanting to fight the guy that was in the backyard street fights. I was not ready for that at the time. I thought I was, but I wasn't.
It's been a wonderful chat. Look forward to your fight on January 25th against RDA. It's a very important fight, but stylistically, I think it's going to be a banger. That's a very good matchup. So best of luck for you there, and thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it.